I hate goals, and I'll tell you why later in the episode. I want to start it out that way because I think a lot of people are addicted to this whole thing where you got to set these big goals and then you got to work backwards. And what am I going to do this week? And then what am I going to do today? And then today turns into a means to an end, and then you're miserable. And someday you look back and you realize you wasted the whole thing. So let's talk about goals and goal setting and how you can actually achieve success and move forward and live intentionally and live good while doing it, but not be miserable because you're not achieving stupid things that you wrote down on a stupid piece of paper. And yes, I'm talking about you, Travis. Anyway, what do you got about what do you have to say about that?
I mean, you all but called me stupid, so I appreciate that. I think maybe that you didn't just come out and say I'm stupid. Yeah, I mean, this is the yin and yang that everybody lives with, especially me. And maybe Mitch and I are good examples of this yin and yang because Mitch just sits around in his pee-stained underwear, no direction in life. He's just drinking all day long. Yeah, I mean, I mean, we're part of like abundance, which is all about, they have the one sheet. What's the big 5 goals this year? And then what are you going to do this quarter? And what's your big, hairy, audacious goal? And what's all these things? And what you find is, I would say well over 95% of the people, or maybe 98% of the people that think this way. And I'm one of them. I've always been this. And I'm my own worst nightmare. So I think that I think these people, the goalposts constantly move. Because there's never like, I've arrived. I like my health. I like my wealth. I like my relationships. It's always like, yeah, but, oh, but I got here, but now the guy next to me is here. And so now you feel like you have to strive. Like it's almost like part of the culture with like these A-type people. There's like A-type men. These are investors. These are people doing big things, but they're all a bit tormented, including myself, where maybe Mitch to a lesser degree. Like we're all like, oh, well, yeah. Like, in 2019, if we were sitting on, 600 units or whatever sitting on, we'd have been like, done. Great. But now we're not. We're like, well, we got to go to thousands of units. And now we have to keep moving the goalposts. And it like Mitch said, it makes a life where you get done with every day, get done with every month, get done with every quarter, get done with every year, feeling like you haven't reached your goals, you haven't accomplished things, and you got to grind harder, you got to work hard, you got to set bigger goals, you got to think differently. And you never stop and just be like if we stopped and been like, hell yeah, man, like we just made, like we have 600 units that produce like meaningful cash flow. And like we've accomplished something very, very few people do. No, we're not. We're like, well, what's the goal for this year?
Okay, for a long time I did have goals, a lot of goals. And what I realized, and I still have goals today, like I'm not gonna lie, like there's certain things, but like
Oh, you don't.
I think
You
I
do
look at
not.
them yeah, it's true, I don't. So I have very few goals. Here's what I have is I have a vision for what I want it to look like. I have a vision for what I want, my relationship with my wife and kids to look like. I have a vision for what my health looks like and from what my life looks like and my financial well-being looks like. I have this vision. And for me, it's simply having this vision and understanding what that looks like, and then having certain behaviors that I do each day that align with that vision and move me toward that vision. But it's not the whole, I'm going to have this many units by this time and this net worth by this date, and I'm going to do this by this date. Like that to me is unattractive. And it's actually like the demise of my own health, because early on I did do that. And what I realized is every single day turned into a means to that goal, a means to an end. And I think the biggest sort of crime against your own life is turning your day to day into a means to an end. Because what does that mean? Hey, my kid wants to play Legos, but I have a goal I need to achieve. And I didn't get enough reps in today on that specific goal. So what is that? So, okay, I'm going to pay attention to that versus be on the floor with my kiddo playing Legos at 7 p.m. Like that, we need to be careful with goals in our life because you turn today into a means to an end. And some of us don't even get to live, to the average age of 80 or whatever. Some of us get cut short. And unfortunately, I've known people and friends and family that get cut short. And for me, we got to be really, really careful with this thing we call life. Super, super careful. And the whole goal thing is turning people into oh, I'm going to just work hard now and then I'll enjoy it. And then I'll hang out with the kids and then I'll go on vacation. Then I'll go skiing. And then that whole sentence, and then is like total bullshit. And it kills people's lives because life is like today.
Yeah, and I think by the very nature of being a type A person or people or entrepreneurs, you and the grind culture that we live in, we feel like that's our job. Our job is to constantly strive for bigger and better, constantly strive for bigger and bigger and better. But by the way, you can strive for a bigger and better life, not a bigger and better balance sheet. I mean, there's different biggers and betters. My question to you, Mitch, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here because you're kind of a dum-dum, and so I need to point this out to people listening. Okay, so you say I don't have a net worth goal, I don't have a cash flow goal, I don't have a unit goal, I don't have a material possession goal, which is awesome, by the way, and I know you don't. But you have a very clearly defined vision of what you want your life to look like, and I know what that is because I've heard you say it. Once you achieve that vision, you've essentially reached that goal. Are you done? Are you saying, I've got the things that I want, the relationships that I want, the free time that I want, or are you going to go, yeah, but then what's next? Like, be honest, Mitch. Don't lie to yourself and don't
Well,
lie to everyone.
I
Yeah,
will be honest, and my answer is going to blow you and the listeners away. Okay. So you're going to be, yeah, well, it's easy to impress a little brain like yours. So listen, I think that you can have several visions in your life depending on where you are in your life. Here's the truth. I had a vision for my life today, and I've achieved that vision today. Like I, I was telling my wife the other day when we had our first baby, we lived in a trailer in the KOA. Okay. And I had a vision that someday we're going to own like a mobile home park or an RV park. Okay. And I had a vision that we're going to be financially stable and I'm going to have the time with my kids and we're going to have, a Chrysler Pacifica, which I did visualize because we rented one and they're awesome to drive. And
is that a
today
minivan?
yeah, it's a minivan. I love it. It's like the
Kind of
best.
embarrassing. Go ahead. Go
Well,
ahead.
it's not a bear. Yeah. Until you drive it and then you realize it's a lot better than your your big truck that you're compensating for something. Anyway, so like what I'm saying is that I had a vision early on and I have fully achieved that vision. Now, I think it's okay in the present to have another vision, to have a look forward, to have something in the future you say, "Oh man, wouldn't it be cool if we had this and the whatever." But it's not that I have to go strive and achieve that to be happy. I love where I am today. If I never got further than where I am today, then I think that's fine. I think it's completely fine. Now, do I get stressed out about achieving something or do I get stressed about making more money and doing the blah, blah, 100%. So I'm not perfect. Like I do play that game, but part of this conversation in this podcast is also for me because we all need to slow down, back up and realize, hey, like celebrate what you have today. First of all, set a vision, get excited about that vision, go work toward it, but like just don't sacrifice today for that vision. And the days that I do sacrifice for that vision or for those goals, I think that's it's a sin against my own life, man. And I do it sometimes. I mean, I think we all do it sometimes, but like just be careful not to be that person. And we've all met him. I had a buddy in college. His dad was a CFO for Bank of America at the time. This was in the early 2000s, and I said, "Oh my God, what a dad! Like that's amazing, that's incredible." And he's like, "I hate him. I hate my dad." Because his dad was so focused on just money and material and striving and becoming part of the C-suite and, just the absolute kissing the ass of the guy ahead of him in the corporate world, whatever. He had spent his whole life making today a means to an end. His own son hated him. And I think that that's what I'm trying to get at is just be careful. Be careful about your goals. Be careful about what that means for today's actions.
If you like what you're hearing so far and you are not making at least $120,000 a year with cash flow real estate or have millions of dollars in equity, come check out our 0 to 100 elite community. The link is below. Check it out.
I think what's really important with that to not falling victim to that, and trust me, I'm in the trap. I've fallen victim to this. I
We
think
all
it's
have this
really,
in certain ways. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think it's like solitude. Like, spend a lot of time with yourself in thought and not necessarily scrolling social media or binge watching shit. I'm talking about like the uncomfortable part of sitting with your thoughts because I know me, I am not comfortable with that. I got to stay distracted. I have to stay stimulated. I have to stay striving. But I think it's really important because when you sit with yourself for long periods of time, you really start to question your values and you start to form your own value base, your core values, essentially. Like every company should have a core values, should have, look, what's the culture of your life and what are your standards and what are your core values? What's really, really important to you? And you don't just write that down in 15 minutes and move on. Like I'm talking, spend some serious time with yourself and your core values are going to shape who you are and what you want to achieve for your life. And then if things don't align with those core values, and then it's out. And I think core values, most people, if they really spend the time with themselves, like say you want to scale a portfolio like we talk about on the show and in our elite mastermind, like just sit down and be like, what are my non-negotiables? My non-negotiables are prioritizing things over my family. And I'm guilty of that, man. I'll tell you right now, I've been guilty of that. I've prioritized other things over my family. And that but had I spent a lot of time before I really started marching up the train of success, which, I grew a company, sold a company, scaling real estate, like all the things I've done, doesn't mean shit if my kids hate me, or if my wife hates me, which happens often, I'm just joking, but like I think it's really important to sit back and like, what are my core values? And that's going to help guide the projects you take on. Like we do a little bit of that. We're like, oh, we can build an RV park. We can develop this piece of land. It's going to take a shitload of work, but we're going to make $1 million doing it. But just saying no, I'm not going to do that because I'm not sacrificing that. And so then you know what to say no to, probably more importantly than what to say yes to.
Well, I think too, and I don't know where I read this, but it stuck with me. This was a while back. You have a vision for what you want things to look like, but from that vision, we can start to work backwards, like a goal, but not a goal. Work backwards. What creates that vision? Like, what are the pillars? And again, I wish I would remember where I read this. Maybe I made it up because I'm so smart, but
Probably heard it from
yeah, it was definitely not from Travis. But I think from that vision builds your pillars, right? So my pillars in my life's health, wealth, relationships, spirituality, those four. Spirituality might mean a religion for you or believing in God or participating in church. It might be something else. That's okay. That's up to you. But health, wealth, relationships, spirituality, those are the four pillars of my vision. And then for me, the last step to that is how do my behaviors align to that each day? I try to touch each one. Right? Just something. Health, I'm thinking about my diet or exercising. Wealth, I'm working on, we're doing our podcast. We've got a book. We're building our real estate portfolio. Relationships, I'm having some intentional time with my kids and my wife, which are the most important people. And so again, I'm not saying this because I'm like standing on a pedestal, like you need to do this. Like I'm shitty at these things, but I do come back to these things as my foundation. And when I am living in that, I feel whole and I feel successful and I feel good about my days because I do think that success happens in your days. It doesn't happen in this far off sort of like 10-year BHAG, a big goal. It happens like today. Like if you're successful today in those four things and you're successful every single day for a couple of years, for example, all of those compound to where you're wealthy, you're healthy, your relationships are solid, and you feel spiritually grounded in whatever, practice you participate in. So like, to me, that's what I gravitate. I'm not saying I'm expert at it. I'm just saying that's what I gravitate toward, that theory or that thesis more than the whole, I'm going to have this by this date. And I'm going to work backwards. And here's what I'm going to do today to get there. That to me stresses me out. I hate that. And that's why I hate goals. Because when I had that, it turned my days into a means to an end. And I realized I was missing out on life. And that might work when you don't have kids and a wife or a husband or a partner or whatever. But when you have other people in your life, that's tough, man. That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, you say this all the time, and it does resonate with me, and I think you probably need to remind me of this more often. So ultimately, my shortcomings are your fault. But you say,
Unbelievable.
I don't take accountability for anything. I think you say these are the good old days, especially now. I've got a 10-year-old, I have an 11-year-old. They're these bright little souls. These are the good old days. And if you adopt life with that lens, and it might even be if you're single, you're in your 20s. Yeah, you've got a big vision for your life. Maybe take time in solitude, lots of time in solitude, really understand your personal core values. What are your non-negotiables in life? Because that's going to help you pick a partner. That's going to help you pick your career path. That's going to help you pick your scale strategy if it's in real estate and how you do it, and how you go about doing it, and how long you do it. Like we were talking to Frank Rolfe. And he did see a huge opportunity in mobile home parks after the great financial crisis of '08 to go buy 250 parks. He had to change his oil once a week because he was on the road constantly. His personal life suffered. And he looked at us straight in the eye and said, don't ever do that. That was awful. That was horrible. I would not recommend that for
Because there's a
anybody.
price to it. There's a price to it. And all but what's your definition of success? In the US, we tend to lean toward the bullshit definition that success equals money. And I'll tell you, that's one little piece of the puzzle. That's a piece of the pie. Success, I think, is going to be measured on the way you think about your life when you're 80 or 90 and you're on your deathbed. That's success. And if you can put yourself there and think about what you're going to think about, then you're going to come up with a very different definition of success than money in the bank account. And I know you want to say something. Give me 1 second. This is why we talk. Yeah, I know. This is why we talk about using the asset of real estate to get back the asset that's the most important thing you have. And that's time to do the things that actually matter. We're not talking about getting rich so you can buy a Ferrari. We really are intentional about getting back to the thing that really matters. Because I think when you're 80, 90, 100, whatever we get the pleasure of living to, we're going to look back and we're going to be like, all that was bullshit except for these couple things. Your kids, man, your kids, your relationships, your wife, your friends, it's going to be really, I think it's going to be based on relationships a lot more than we think.
Yeah, and I think people that might be listening in their 20s that are saying, well, that's fine. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. I'm going to grind, grind, grind. That was me. That was me in the military. That was me in my 20s. And I'll tell you, those were also the good old days. That's a chapter of your life that's special. And I sacrificed hanging out with my friends. I sacrificed exploring
I
the
took it way
world.
too seriously.
Yeah,
Way
yeah.
too seriously.
And I look back on that and I go, those were the good old days for my 20s. And I sacrificed a lot to get ahead. And then it's hard to turn that off as you get a family, as you get a wife and a kid and you have kids. And so I would argue that even if you're in your 20s and you're like, because there is this fallacy out there, we see it. There's very well-known people online that are talking about, fuck all that, grind. This is your time to grind, which is true to a point. But at the same time, don't sacrifice today because you might get to be 29, you might turn 30, finally meet the woman of your dreams that you're planning to have a life with, and you get hit by a bus, right? Or I don't know why buses are always hitting people in these analogies,
But
but
terrible. It's a terrible thing. Yeah.
yeah, but you're also like, oh man, I look back on my 20s, I had fun. I was in the military traveling all over the world, and I could have spent a lot more time traveling and building relationships with my friends and stuff. But I thought I had to go to college. So I was in night school till 11 o'clock every night, doing homework all weekends. Travis, let's go here. Let's do this. Let's do that. No, I'm grinding because I'm grinding because I'm grinding. And I look back on it and I do live in regret over those things. There's time for that stuff.
Yeah, but that's the thing though, is some people, and I remember I had a family member actually say this to me. Either you can be really, really wealthy and your family not, like you or love you or whatever, or you can have a great relationship with your family and not be wealthy. And I remember thinking it affected me for a second because I thought, well, I don't want to be wealthy for the material, but I think access to resources and time is important. So that means money. And of course I want some really, really strong relationships. I remember thinking I'm going to figure out how to have it all. And I mean, for me, I want it all. I want to be wealthy and healthy, and I want to have a good family and relationships. I want it all. And I refuse to think that I have to sacrifice one for the other. And so for me, it comes back to those behaviors. But if you want it all, you need to focus on all of it every single day. Not I'm going to focus on that after this. Oh, I'll focus on my relationship with my wife after I get this. Or I'm going to focus on hanging out with my kids more and going to their basketball games and everything like that after I get my master's degree. Stop the bullshit on waiting for those things. You've got to touch each of those pillars every single day, because if you don't make your days successful, your life will not be successful, because all life is made up of is one day at a time. So that's what I think I've learned over the last couple years is we can all have it all. But you've got to touch each thing every single day and stop waiting to focus on those things.
Yeah, and I would say before you cut me off here, Mitch, to put a bow on this episode, because I like to be the person that says the last word, so I sound smart and everybody forgets about what you said. No, I mean, this this was something we talked about before we even got on the air here, and that was your inputs dictate your output. That actually resonated with me. I know I was shaking my head and telling you to shut up because I like to make you feel worse about yourself and anything that comes out of your mouth. But I was really taking stock in that. Like the inputs are the output. And so maybe instead of setting goals, like define what what your life is and then practice habits every single day. So if it's health, if it's wealth, if it's relationships, what are the things I do every day that are my non-negotiables to drive my health? What are the things I do every day to drive my wealth? What are the things I do every day to build my relationships? Instead of setting these giant goals and working backwards every month, every quarter, every year, you're like, okay, well, these are the things I just got to get up and do every day. And if I do something that furthers my health every day, if I do something that furthers my relationships every day, if I do something that furthers my wealth every day, there is the law of compounding, and those things will start to be really, really meaningful, and you will build the life that you want. So once again, the great sage Mitchell England speaks. I pretend not to listen, but I'm actually listening because you're a wise old soul. You don't look like it. Don't even look anywhere near wise, but
I
you
know I
are
don't
wise.
look old. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. But I
You
am a
actually
wise
don't.
sage, and
You look
all of you
fine.
should listen to me. No, I'm joking. I'll say this last thing. I'm not a wise sage, and I don't even know if you should listen to me. But some of these podcasts, the book we wrote, a lot of the things I do are also for myself. So that talking about this makes me think about this. It makes me more intentional. It makes me more aware of like the fact that we need to focus on these things. And so even just having this conversation, I'm able to learn and reflect. So anyway, hopefully you guys like this podcast. It's a little bit different. We didn't talk a lot about real estate, but I think this is it's a timely conversation because we all need to revisit. We all get jazzed about goals the beginning of the year, which is awesome. Let's go crush it, but be careful because I think playing with goals is playing with fire. I think we need to change the, you know, our approach and really pay attention to our daily behaviors. So hopefully you love this show. Go visit us at www.0to100tribe.com, especially if you're interested in working with us. We've got an awesome mastermind. We're about to jump on a mastermind call today for a Q&A session with our mastermind members. So if you love what we're about and you want to work with us, join our mastermind or check us out. Go to the website. Otherwise, go to Amazon and grab our book. Shameless plug for our book, but it's the best real estate book out there. There's nothing like it, I promise. All right. See you guys next time.
Bye.